My name's Jess Higgins. I'm in my third year now and I'm studying 4-year degree M.Chem in chemistry. I chose to study at Sussex because when I came onto the campus I felt really at home here. I'd heard a lot about the Department of Chemistry and I knew that they were really good. The thing I like best about studying chemistry is that you actually get to make things. It's not just theoretical. It's great to know the theory behind things and know why things work, but when you actually get to put loads of stuff together and come out with a purple powder or a bright orange crystal, it's brilliant and you know you've made something. And then you can go back and find out what it is. I generally have between 13 and 24 hours of actual contact time a week, so it is quite a bit of time in lectures or labs. There's usually 4 to 8 hours in a lab, depending what course you're doing and what you've got to do as well. There's lots of lectures each day, and generally I have a lab report and a problem set to hand in a week, so I'll spend a good amount of time in the library or at home reading and studying, but most of my time will be spent with lectures and at university itself. In terms of time management, it is a case of working hard and playing hard, especially as a chemist, I think. You do have a lot of reports to hand in and you do have work that's due in. You have deadlines probably every week. It's not just an end-of-term essay like a lot of other subjects are. So for me, I learned quite quickly that leaving everything to the last minute really isn't the right way to go. Not only do you find that you can't go out and do things that you want to do, but you also find that you struggle towards the end. So taking your time, knowing what's due in and when it's due in, and making sure that you do a little bit each day and get towards the deadline is the best way to manage your time. When you go into the lab for the first time, it's really vital that you make sure you're organised and that you know what you're doing. You go in with a lab script and it's got instructions about things that you need to do, and sometimes you'll not be sure what they are and you have to ask for help as you go along, but if you know what you're doing in each half-an-hour step and you've read through all the instructions well, you can manage your time and get to your end product in the right time. Labs are a huge part of when you come and do chemistry here at Sussex, and me personally, the first time I stepped into a lab, I was so scared. I had broken things at A-level constantly and I just thought it's going to be a nightmare. But to be honest, when you come in here and you get your own locker and you've got your glassware and you get your place, you quickly learn to adapt and you learn a lot of new skills in a very short space of time. In my third year now, I know my way around a lab and I'm really confident here. But it is the biggest learning step, I think. Writing a lab report is something you need to do every time you finish an experiment, and it's got to be quite precise, and everyone has their own way that they want you to set it out, but generally you need to make sure you include lots of details. If you see something that's changed colour, make sure you put it in. Most of mine include doing my short introduction saying what I'm actually doing, a bit of theory behind it, good detail on your method, so say this much of aldehyde was put into a round bottom flask. Always needs to be in third person. You can't say I did this, I did that. Then you've got to go into your results, and that's the bit where you really can go into detail. So if you've got spectra to assign, make sure you go and assign every peak. Make sure you go into detail about any questions that get in there, because that's where all the marks come from. Often things with chemistry is related to stuff that you may not have learnt in the course that you're writing your lab report for. So if you've got any other knowledge you think, oh, I remember from that course, I can put it in and relate it. It's always good. In terms of finding other ways of studying, going to the library and picking out books is a brilliant way to learn. You save money by not buying your textbooks, but you also get a really wide access to all kinds of new topics. We've got our new chemistry library as well, which has computers there for us to use and a lot of journals and specific chemistry textbooks that you might not find anywhere else. But online there's a huge range of resources as well. As a student here at Sussex, you have access to all kinds of journals, so if you want to research an article from 20 years ago in the Journal of Organic Chemistry, you just type it in and you can go and read original resources. So if you find a subject really fascinating, or even if you're struggling with something, you can always go and look it up on one of our online resources as well. When you go into a lecture, it's quite typical that you'll get a pack of notes from your lecturer. So they'll teach either by chalking on the board while they follow the notes that they're giving you, or also they'll do slideshows. So often you'll get a copy of all the slides they use. And the best thing for me is to make notes in the lectures as they go. It's not as hard as it seems to jot a few words down, especially memorable things that they may say or add to the text. So just jotting a few notes down and maybe writing a resource to look up on your notes at the same time is really good. But most notes are also available on Study Direct, which is the Sussex online learning resource. So if you've missed a lecture because you were ill, or if you want to go over another lecture again because you didn't get the notes for it, or you just want some more resources, if you go to your Study Direct site, you'll find all the slides and then often links to other courses as well, which is really, really helpful. When you make notes the first time around, often it's a bit rushed in lectures, but if you take the time to go back through them again, even before you start revising for exams, and just write out what you've written down, just to make sure you understand it, it really, really helps me, particularly for specific chemistry reactions where you need to know exactly where things go. If you made a little mistake, it's better to find out sooner when you're copying up your notes again, rather than later just before your exam when you find you've learnt it wrong. For each of my courses, I have a coursework element to it, which might consist of problem sets where I have to draw out some reactions or show that I know how to use a certain formula or equation. Then I'll usually have a lab report as well, so my experiment and my product that I've got to hand in. But usually we also have end-of-term exams, which are technically counted as part of the coursework, but are under test conditions. So you've got 50 minutes and you've got to basically answer questions that show you understand the course. And for me, exams are a bit scary. I'm not the best person at exams, but I found that revising for them really helps consolidate my knowledge. So I really do draw on everything I've learned throughout my course, and all my coursework marks I look back on and make sure I know what I've got. So exams at the end of the term are really helpful tools to test actually how much you know. At the end of the year, usually in your summer term, you'll have a formal summer exam. So that will test everything you've learnt from first term, second term, third term. So in some ways, doing your coursework exams at the end of term well really prepare you for your summer exams. A lot of the times, things that you learn in chemistry, you need to practice them to be able to use them. If it's a mechanism for a reaction, you need to use it and draw it again and just check you know what's actually going on. The best way for revising with me is to get together with a group of friends and all take an aspect of the course and go and try and paraphrase it or draw it out or say to your friend, oh, would you do this reaction? By doing it yourself, you have to make sure you know it, and by explaining it to others, it helps everybody else. So it's a really great way of reinforcing learning, and for me that was the best way to revise. When you hand in a piece of work, you hand it in with a cover sheet on the front, and usually your lecturer will have written comments directly on your work or on your cover sheet. So if you've got a question wrong, you won't just have a cross. You'll have a couple of notes explaining why. And the useful thing with most of our courses is that we have workshops as well. So if you've got your piece of work back that you handed in, you've got a question wrong, that's an ideal time to say to your lecturer, why did I get this wrong? Or actually, what's the right answer? I don't understand. So you have the opportunity to get the feedback and also be able to go and help yourself by finding out the proper answers or finding out more about the subject. The first people I go to if I'm struggling, and my first year I went quite a bit, was to the student mentors. And they're second year, third year, fourth year students who've all done the courses you've done and probably struggled in the same way that you were struggling, but who are there for a few hours a week in a room in a session to go and have questions asked to them, So you bring your stuff along and say, I've tried this question 3 times and I don't understand where I'm going with it. And they'll give you a hand. And it's great to talk to someone who is on your own level. When I came to Sussex in my first year, I got to know about the student rep scheme, and it was quite interesting because I thought, well, it'd be nice to be able to give something back, and I've got to know my classmates now and I'd like to be able to help them if they've got any problems. So I went through the voting week and I nominated myself and got a few votes, and I got to be a student rep. I've actually been a student rep for the other 2 years that I've been here as well. And in that time I've managed to help make some changes in our department. The thing with the department is that the people they need to hear feedback from is the students. If you've struggled with something, or if you found a course really, really interesting or really not interesting, or if there's been some sort of timetable mix-up, they need to hear from you so they can fix these things. And every term you get to go to a meeting with a range of the faculty and go and express your concerns. So it's a nice way to be able to get some feedback going. But equally, it's also good to be able to talk to your departmental members and faculty and get, sort of honest feedback from them about what you as students could also be doing to help yourselves. The students here at the department have always been very social, and when I arrived in my first year, I remember in my first Halloween here, I got thrown into a Halloween party and it had all kinds of foaming punch, and it was run by students in the department. For the next couple of years, I went to loads of parties and helped to organise a few parties, and it was the kind of thing where you got together as a group of people and decided to do a social for everyone you knew. We decided to formalise this because we thought, this is ridiculous, why don't we just have a chemistry society? And rather than just holding social events, which are great fun, we thought, why can't we do things like lectures and invite visiting speakers in, like science writers and people that we've seen on TV, and go and do trips out to factories and to sites that are of interest to us as chemists. So we decided to establish C60, our chemistry society, which is named after the famous buckyball that was discovered here at Sussex by Sir Harry Croto. It's been really rewarding getting involved in this society for me because I've managed to help other people, not just chemists, see chemistry. I actually changed up to do 4 years at Sussex onto an MChem degree from the BSc that I originally applied to do, because I found out that in 4th year you get to do a research project. I really didn't like labs at first, but now I've really enjoyed them, and I want to spend as much time in a lab as possible. So for me, a 4th year project is an ideal chance to go and focus on an area of chemistry that I like and be able to do some real research and work with experts in the field, which are our lecturers and our professors. So with my 4th year, I want to expand my practical skills and prepare myself for a job either in industry or to go on into further study to do a PhD.